Hey beautiful writers out there. So today, let's talk about what really creates momentum in a script. Besides the most obvious one and always referred to, conflict. Let's look at my top 3 things that you could use to create even more momentum in your script. Up to a degree where you have a page turner faster than anyone can read. Does it even make sense? Don't worry about it. Let's do this! First question of the day, what is momentum anyways? So momentum really is what propels, your story forward. And this is especially interesting to readers. When you grab your reader and you can hold his or her attention throughout the whole script, it has usually and most often to do with momentum. Conflict is one element to it all. So if there is no conflict, all the scenes, they lose not only power, but they also lose a lot of momentum, and they slow the reader down because the reader instantly asks him or herself, okay, why am I reading this again? And what is this scene for? Why do I have to bother? And if this enters the consciousness of the reader, you're screwed. Okay, so let's start with number 1, consequences. Throughout the whole script, there should be, an active protagonist. That should be a given. And this protagonist should want something that is visual, like a visual outer goal. While wanting to accomplish this visual outer goal, he or she should make active decisions and choices. And these choices, they lead to consequences. And check out my other video I did on meaningful obstacles, because consequences is really part of setting up obstacles. So check out the video if you want to dive into this topic more. So let's jump right to number 2, fear and hope. This is what I find to be the most attractive form of engagement you can give your reader. It's a very pleasurable and enjoyable ride, and a very emotional one too. Let's talk about fear and hope for a second. Fear and hope are very strong emotions, and these emotions also are very familiar to us. We know fear and we also know hope. So what is fear? Everything we anticipate that could go wrong. And that's the key to it, anticipation. But I will come to that in a second. But what is hope then? Hope sort of is the antidote to fear. By hoping, we overcome, the fear of things. Okay, so here in a nutshell is how it works. You create fear for a character, and you do that in a way that you make the reader anticipate that something bad will happen to the character based on the decisions the character made earlier on. And these decisions will have consequences, and these consequences, they will lead up to either fear or hope. So if we feel like he or she made a bad choice, then we already anticipating and we already fearing a certain outcome. And this outcome will definitely keep us glued to the pages, because then we're fearing for the protagonist. That is, of course, once we have, engaged with the protagonist. But once this is accomplished, fear immediately engages us with the character, and we want this to turn out okay for the character again. And see what's already happening? Yes, of course, we're already hoping for the outcome not to be as bad as we anticipated it to be. So what you want to keep in mind is that, and the fear and hope aspect only work if it's a character-driven story. Because character-driven, as we discussed in previous videos, is that a character actively, pursues an outer goal, and by doing so makes active choices. These choices lead to, consequences. This is what I call the cause and effect rule. What the rule really means is that, one scene causes something, and in the next scene, you kind of show the effect that it has. Okay, let's look at an example. Let's meet Lucy. Lucy's 25, tough as tough can be, and she's in bed with another man. Her flat is pretty run down. Obviously, she's very poor. But we experience an intimate situation with this, fairly older dude who's with her, when suddenly a kid cries next door. So she gets up, she picks up the kid, and when she grabs the kid, we can see, okay, this kid is in no good shape. This kid is actually pretty sick. So she takes the kid, goes back into the other room, and the guy is already familiar with the kid and says, I'm sure you will find another way. Everything will turn out good. And Lucy then kind of says, no way, this cannot go on forever. My kid needs medical attention right now. I gotta take care of the kid. You're either with me or you don't, but I need to take care of the kid. And then she storms out. And then we cut to her sitting in a car in front of a bank. You know where this is going? Yes, she's about to rob the bank. Then we cut back to the man. And now we see, alright, hang on a second, this man is actually a cop. And we get a sense that he is, on the phone talking to a superior and kind of ratting her out. And then we, cut back to her getting out of the car, putting on the ski mask, maybe some gloves, getting out the weapon, and coming to a halt right before the door to the bank. We could see that she's hesitating. Let's cut it right there. First off, you did fear for the character because you knew that, someone was, ratting on her. And then she stops right there, right in front of the door to the bank, and has kind of second thoughts about it. And that's where our hope kicks in, because we obviously don't want anything bad happening to her. And we obviously don't want her to end up in jail, because who's going to take care of the kid then? Exactly. And if you stick to, the cause and effect scheme, then there's nothing really that can go wrong. Which brings us to the third element of it. The third thing is kind of, related to what we've just discussed, and that is let the reader do the math without over-explaining things, without really telling everyone what to think. Right there, you let the reader piece it together. So you just give the information very sparsely. So storytelling really is deciding when to give what information. You let the reader figure it out. You just give him or her puzzle pieces to solve. Like really a puzzle piece here and a puzzle piece there. But the actual puzzling, you leave that to the reader. And if you stick to that, you cannot really go wrong. These are exactly the three things that create great momentum in your script. So first, take care of the consequences. Make sure the character does make active choices that lead to consequences. Second, fear and hope. Make the reader fear and hope for the character. And last but not least, let the reader figure it out. Let the reader do the math. And if you stick to these three methods I just told you, everything will build up nicely towards a climax, and everything will just have the right pacing. Alright, that's it for today. So check out my website. There's a bunch of free stuff there, like free ebooks and free worksheets. The link is down below. Like, subscribe, and all of this good stuff. See you in the next one. Right off.